Hello everyone. Back again with film recaps. In this video, I'm going to recap one of the horror mystery films from 2025, titled The Home. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone a happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens with our protagonist, Max, who's listening to the news about an impending storm. In a flashback, we see a young Max growing up with foster parents and siblings. The family is seen celebrating as one of the siblings, Luke, prepares to leave for college. This news deeply upsets young Max, as the two are extremely close, but Luke assures him that he will visit during the holidays, and that their bond is thicker than blood. The scene returns to the present, where Max has just finished painting graffiti after breaking into someone else's property, prompting the cops to arrest him. In another flashback, we see young Max arriving at his parents' room one night, only to find them crying. It turns out Luke has ended his own life, as he was having some problems in college. Poor Max is shattered by the news, and left with a scar that will haunt him forever. In the present, he is detained at the station when he's visited by his dad. The man is clearly disappointed in him, and we learn that Max has been acting out like this ever since Luke's death. However, his dad seems loving, and tells him that he has spoken with the judge, and fortunately, there will be no jail time. Max has instead been assigned 4 months of community service at a retirement home, where he'll work as the new superintendent. At first, Max is annoyed at the thought of working with old people, but he soon realizes it's far better than spending time behind bars. Later, Max heads to the retirement home, which is located in an isolated place far from the city. Upon his arrival, he meets 2 workers, Lei and Juno, who explain his cleaning duties at the facility. Juno then hands him a master key that opens most of the doors, but forbids him from going to the 4th floor, where the patients require special care and it's strictly prohibited. Without wasting any time, Max gathers the cleaning supplies, and begins his work. He heads to the swimming pool, where he encounters an old woman named Norma, who seems kind. She looks at him with affection, and says he reminds her of someone she once knew. That night, while Max is sleeping, he hears faint noises, and suddenly someone screams his name, which jolts him awake. Moments later, another loud scream echoes from the upper floor that sends chills down his spine. Max then notices his door is slightly open, so he quickly shuts it. The next morning, Max is awakened by a frantic knock on his door, and it turns out to be an old man named Lou, accompanied by another resident. They inform him that one of the residents has had an accident, and left a huge mess, so Max must quickly help clean up. But when the 3 arrive at a room, Max is instead greeted by all the elders, who have thrown a surprise party for him. They warmly welcome him to the retirement home, and introduce themselves one by one. At the party, Max is approached by a man named Sabian, who turns out to be the doctor of the facility. He tells Max that these elderly residents are good people, who deserve comfort in their twilight years. Here Sabian suddenly compliments his eyes, saying they are strikingly large and beautiful, making Max slightly uneasy. That night, he wakes from a nightmare and steps outside, only to hear piercing screams echoing from the upper floor. He is then startled by Norma, who asks what he's doing out so late, and Max explains he couldn't sleep, so the old woman invites him into her room for a conversation. Afterward, Max notices a trinket in her room, and remarks that it looks familiar, so Norma explains that it belonged to her friend, who passed away years ago, and loved collecting trinkets. Max also notices a half-torn painting, and Norma reveals that it was painted by her son. They had an argument one day when he ripped the painting, and it turns out he also passed away some time ago. She admits that this is why she can't sleep at night, and Max shares that he is going through something similar. The next day, while Max is cleaning the 3rd floor, he once again hears screams from upstairs, which deeply worries him. He finally decides to see what's happening and makes his way to the 4th floor, where most of the doors are locked. Eventually, he finds one room open, and when he enters, he's horrified to see elderly people in wheelchairs. Their physical condition is terrifying, with overgrown and filthy nails, decayed skin, and blood oozing from all of their eyes. Seconds later, one of the old men points at Max, and slowly rises while letting out a blood-curdling scream. Max tries to calm him down, but the old man lunges aggressively toward him. Before he can do any real harm, Juno and Lei rush to restrain the man and urgently order Max to leave. Afterward, Dr. Sabian meets with Max, and expresses how deeply disappointed they are in his actions. He reminds Max that he's here for a fresh start, and warns him not to throw it away by slipping back into reckless behavior. The young man responds with a sincere apology, and promises it will never happen again. That evening, Norma approaches Max, and says that she heard he went to the 4th floor. Max admits that something seems terribly wrong with the people on that floor. But Norma reassures him with a phrase, "A heart knows a heart," explaining that this is why he feels those emotions so strongly. She warns him that there's nothing he can do for those elders, and advises him to stay away. The next morning, Max notices Norma arguing with Sabian and Lei before storming off, which strikes him as very odd. He later arrives at her room, where she seems to be getting ready for a party. He then gifts her a half-torn drawing he made, hoping she can use it to complete the painting given to her by her son. The gesture deeply touches Norma, and she suddenly warns him that something is very wrong with this place, and he needs to get out, but before she can say anything further, she notices someone in the distance, prompting her to hurry back to her room. Later, Max struggles to make sense of what Norma said. He thus rushes to find her, but Juno informs him that Norma has gone to the infirmary, as she's not feeling well. In the morning, Max is cleaning the yard when he glances at the 4th floor. He sees the old man who attacked him, aggressively biting his own finger. The man uses his blood to write something on the window, but things take a horrifying turn when Norma suddenly falls from upstairs, and dies by landing on a fence, while Max is paralyzed by the shocking sight. Soon, the authorities arrive for the dead body, and Sabian gives the police Norma's last letter, in which she stated that she wanted to join her deceased son. A distraught Max doesn't believe this, so after the funeral, he approaches Lou, who is also grieving. Max asks if he really thinks she would take her own life, but Lou says he has no idea. Max then recounts what Norma told him during their last meeting, and upon hearing this, Lou suddenly freezes in shock. He begins having a bizarre seizure, but Max quickly manages to snap him out of it. The next day, Max arrives at Norma's room to search for any clues, but comes across Lei, who threatens to call the cops for violating the rules. Max explains that he just came by to find any of her belongings he could keep as a memento, but an enraged Lei says that all of her belongings have been sent to burn in the basement. He gives Max a final warning, so the young man also apologizes and leaves. Next, Max once again decides to break the rules and heads to the basement, where he searches through Norma's things. He finds the half-finished painting, the trinket, and her personal diary. In the diary, Norma had written about Max's encounter on the 4th floor, and that he must be warned of the danger. She had described how people come at night with needles and a dog to change them, and she feared the next victim might be her or Lou. Reading all this scares Max, so that night, he searches Dr. Sabian's background on the internet. He learns that Sabian was once a celebrated scientist, studying psychosis in patients over 75, but was eventually shunned after a controversial eye therapy. Max tries to dig further, but several messages keep popping up on his laptop, all saying, "Have you seen the light?" He clicks on one of the messages, which takes him to a chat link. He accepts the link, which automatically downloads software that leads to a webcam. In the webcam, there is a live stream of a woman with a distorted face, but before they can communicate, the connection is abruptly lost. The next day, Max receives a package he ordered, which contains several spy cameras. Just then, the woman with the distorted face appears on his laptop and warns him that someone is coming, right when there's a loud knock on the door. Max opens the door, only to find it's just Juno, who asks him to be downstairs in 5 minutes before leaving. Afterward, Max opens his laptop, and asks the distorted woman how she knew someone was coming to his room. She reveals that she has been watching him, and she was the one who put the UV light on his door. A confused Max asks what's happening, but she claims she can't say much, as they become suspicious if she's gone too long. She warns him that they killed Norma for knowing too much, and that they will kill him as well, before the line abruptly disconnects again. That afternoon, Max pretends to clean, while setting up spy cameras in various corners of the facility. At night, he monitors the footage from his laptop, but doesn't notice anything suspicious, before eventually drifting off to sleep. But soon, he is awakened by a noise, and sees Juno, Dr. Sabian, and Lei escorting a woman to the basement. There is also a hooded person with them, and he's accompanied by a dog. They all enter the basement, so Max realizes something bad is happening and decides to follow them. Upon his arrival, Max hears a woman screaming and crying from a room, which horrifies him. Unfortunately, the hooded man with the dog notices and rushes toward him, prompting Max to run upstairs. When he returns to the room, he's shocked to see a woman, who turns out to be the one from the live stream. She reveals the shocking information that the government funds this facility for research, testing, experimental drugs, and even controversial gene trials. Facilities like this exist all across the country, and they are experimenting on thousands of elderly people. Moreover, her father is one of their victims, and she urges Max to gather evidence so they can expose these criminals. The woman says she can't stay long, but as she rushes to leave, the aggressive old man from the 4th floor is there and he quickly lunges at her. Max also gets knocked out in the process. Later, Dr. Sabian takes Max to an operating room, where he suddenly pulls out the young man's teeth, causing him immense pain. Max begins experiencing bizarre visions that send a shiver down his spine. When he wakes up the next morning, he finds Juno in the room, who informs him that the patient from the 4th floor got loose, and tried to hurt him. She explains that Sabian wants to conduct a thorough examination on him, and leaves briefly to call the doctor. However, as soon as he's left alone, Max climbs out of the window and runs away from the retirement home. He heads to the nearest gas station to call his parents, who soon arrive to pick him up. When they get home, his parents introduce him to his new foster sisters, Tessa and Jackie. After a while, Max wakes up from a long nap, and finds his mother sitting in front of him. He thanks her for taking care of him, to which she responds, "A heart knows a heart." The phrase shocks Max, and his mom explains that she once heard the phrase from an old friend, but can't remember who it was. She then tells him that she and his dad are going to see the judge, hoping he can help with Max's situation since he might get punished for fleeing his community service. However, as soon as the parents leave, Max approaches the two girls downstairs and shows them Norma's photo. He asks if they have ever seen her, but the girls deny it, so Max starts searching the house frantically for any clue, but finds nothing. Frustrated, he returns to his room, where the girls approach him and suddenly ask if he has found the secret place. Max doesn't understand, so Tessa points to a trinket he brought, and says they found the exact same thing in the secret place, so they thought he must have been there too. Up next, the girls lead him to a wardrobe, which turns out to be a secret path to a hidden room. He is shocked to notice that the room is covered in trinkets similar to the ones Norma had. At the center, he finds an altar with a goddess-like statue, and a note that says, "Dea, Roman goddess of youth." The girls then point out several photo albums, so he first frantically opens a 1997 album, and finds photos of the elderly residents partying, along with his parents. But the shocking thing is that they all look exactly the same as they do now. In 2000, he sees a group photo with a young woman in a white dress in a wheelchair. As he continues flipping through more albums, he encounters photographs of the same residents, but the young person in the wheelchair changes each time. His heart sinks when he finds the 2009 album, where his beloved brother Luke is in a wheelchair. Overcome with emotion, he tears the picture from the album and rushes out of the house. A while later, Max returns to the retirement home, where he breaks down a door to reach the 4th floor. He then approaches the aggressive patient, who, in a shocking twist, turns out to be Luke, and was only trying to communicate with his brother. An emotional Max tells him how much he missed him, and shows his tattoo that says "thicker than blood." This makes Luke very emotional, and after this tearful reunion, Max asks for his help so they can leave the facility. Next, he shows the picture, and asks who these people were, and Luke points it toward the other patients in the room. This leaves Max stunned. But before he can do anything,
what happened to you guys? I don't understand.
What?
a while later, Max wakes up, and is shocked to find himself in a wheelchair, wearing a white suit, while a party is going on. Surrounding him are all the residents along with his foster parents, and they all click a group picture. Lou then congratulates everyone on their excellent performance, and it is revealed that the distorted face woman was Dr. Sabian's wife, Gretchen, who is also a member of the cult. It turns out they were all acting to mess with Max's head, and drain him of his essence. The elders now cheer for their success, and begin chanting in honor of Dea, the goddess of youth. The scene then cuts to an operating room, where Max is terrified to find himself surrounded by all the cult members. Here Dr. Sabian informs him about a small sac behind the right eye, called the nectar, which is the source of youth. He explains that they have been draining Max every night, and feeding on his honey, which keeps them young forever. It is then revealed that all of these people are over 100 years old, even his foster parents, which horrifies Max. The doctor now painfully opens his eye to extract the nectar, while the cult members begin chanting Dee's name, and touching each other. In the next scene, Max wakes up on the 4th floor, where he has tragically become old, and confined to a wheelchair, just like the others. Lo then reveals how Norma had started to like him, and wanted to save him, which is why she had to leave. He adds that old age is filled with boredom, so they have to play these games, and torment him to have fun. After Lou leaves, Max notices Luke retrieving a spike from his chair, and kissing all the elderly on the head, before extracting their nectar. Finally, he extracts his own nectar, and leans down to kiss Max, before making him drink the extracted fluid, and this shockingly fills Max with strength and restores his youth, right when a huge storm erupts outside. Sometime later, Juno enters the room, and is shocked to see all the elders lying unconscious on the floor while Max is nowhere to be seen. And then all of a sudden, he then arms himself with an axe, and goes on a killing spree to eliminate the residents one by one, causing chaos in the retirement home. A terrified Lou hides inside a wardrobe and desperately prays to Dea for protection, while Max finds Lei, whom he brutally smashes with his weapon. Soon after, Max finds Lou as well, and drags him outside, where Sabian points a gun at him and asks him to stop. The doctor fires several shots, but Max uses Lou as a shield, causing the latter to instantly die. Here, Max twists Sabian's wrist, and painfully batters him until the evil doctor loses his life. He then goes after Gretchen, and bashes her repeatedly, while noticing that his parents have fled outside. But because of the huge hurricane, the facility's roof comes flying in their direction and crushes them on the spot, after which Max finishes off Gretchen as well. After eliminating everyone, the angry man approaches the dead Lou, and forcibly opens his eyes, saying, "I'm taking it all back." In the final scene, Max exits the building with his brother, and the other residents also follow. They have slowly gained some of their strength, and can walk normally after drinking the nectar from the dead cult, escaping the home. Okay guys, thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.